All right. Welcome everyone that is joining us on the Zoom webinar and everyone on Facebook. We're very glad to be hosting this Finding Freedom from Idea to Entrepreneur with our very dynamic and trailblazing group of panelists today. My name is Monica. I am founder of the Gaggler, an online wellness platform based here in Dubai. And I am very excited to be partnering with Creative Zone and bringing this programming to you. So I think let's get started. We have an hour here to cover a lot of topics and also to address any questions you might have. Just before we get started with introductions, I'd like to just let everyone know that if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat, or if you have a Q&A button, you can also pop it in there, and we'll make sure that that those get addressed. If there are particular questions that you have towards a specific panelist, then please let us know who you would like to address that question to. All right, so without further ado, today we have with us Audrey Hametner. Audrey is the CEO of the Bedrock program and Chief Operating Officer of Upskill. We also have Lucy Bradley, who is Brand Commander of Plug Operation Design. And last but certainly not least, we have Nadine Halabi, Business Development Manager of the Dubai Business Women's Council. Welcome, everybody. If I can just please ask Audrey to start with introducing herself, and then we can follow with Lucy and Nadine.
Wonderful. Thank you, Monica. Hello, everyone. My name is Audrey Hametner, as Monica pointed out. So I come to the panel from a background of finance and operations. And in 2019, I started a program focused on confidence and career development for youth. So the focus there was, having worked with many youth across the globe and have worked with many companies in different regions around the world. Disengagement is a big issue that a lot of companies are facing. So I wanted to tackle that from the beginning. It's been a great journey, a difficult one, but a fun one at that. And I also work with the founder of Upskill, and now I work as the COO of Upskill. And that is a tool that helps not just schools, but also businesses to identify, support, and manage the well-being of their employees and students. And then apart from that, I'm also the co-president of Elevate, which is a women's networking group here in Dubai. Elevate being a global organization in and of itself. So lots to bring to the table, and excited to be here.
Thank you, Audrey. Lucy?
My name is Lucy, and I'm the owner for the brand commander of Plug Operation Design. It is a marketing and design agency that's been going for 15 years, and I pride myself on the point of difference that I really help people with their problems. So if they're running an event or they want some creative, that it kind of gets bums on seats. How do I get people into the business, staying in the business? And how do we look after clients so they never want to go anywhere else? And that's pretty much what's been my forte for the last sort of 5 to 10 years. In terms of network and community, I'm part of Female Fusion. I'm also a member of the BBG. I'm on the board for the New Zealand Business Council, and I'm also in the French Business Council, and I'm one of the mentors to hopefully a nice looking French guy that joins. But I mentor people who are in the beginning of their journeys in terms of business, and then they link them with people in the business group who can help mentor them on anything they need to be mentored on. So that's me.
Fantastic. Nadine?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nadine Halabi, and I've been running the Dubai Business Women Council for almost 11 years. The DBWC is a nonprofit organization under the umbrella of the Dubai Chambers. And it's basically a platform that represents and supports the working women or the business women of the city of Dubai. We also represent our members locally and internationally, and we offer them a range of benefits that can help them not only hone their skills, but also connect with like-minded women, create partnerships for their business, and also make their own businesses more visible. I'm very happy to be joining the panel with Audrey and Lucy. I see a lot of areas of common denominator between the three of us, and I'm looking forward to a very interesting panel discussion. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get started with our first question. So often, and this question I'd like to pose to Lucy and Audrey to kick off. Business success in Dubai is often viewed as dependent on, you've got to do it better, whether it's better product, service, etc. Network like crazy, ace your digital marketing, and show yourself as an expert. So I'd like to know from your experience in starting and building your own business in Dubai, what do you believe are the key principles or values to take an idea and make it into a viable and successful venture?
Audrey wants to answer that one.
So the first thing is you have to believe in your product. Whatever it is, a product or service, you have to believe in it, because there will always be naysayers. There will always be people who are on the fence, and there is always an abundance of people that want to tell you how to do it better, right? Whether or not you believe them, whether or not they understand what you're doing, it doesn't matter. So your belief in your product and your service also allows you to be open to feedback in case there is some nugget being offered to you that you didn't know, or that you are now learning that are applicable from a cultural perspective that you didn't think about before, or from a process perspective, because it's not your area of expertise. So that would definitely be one thing that I would definitely say. I'll let Lucy go, and then I'll chime in with more. Otherwise, I'll dominate and it'll be all over.
No, the one thing I was going to say, I always say to people, I mean, I've been running my business, I've been plugging away for 15 years. I always say to people when they attend my masterclasses, do you want to be good, or do you just want to look good? And for me, when you talk about measuring success, it isn't, you know, oh, now that I've got this ridiculous big office, although this one is quite big actually, but it's, you know, it's not measured by where we live. For me, this is just part of, you know, my belief. My success, I think, is that I think in 15 years, I've probably lost 1 or 2 clients that I may have pissed off. So my success, how I measure it, is that I do walk the talk in terms of I'm able to maintain and keep clients, which is what I always teach in my classes, is people should be able to maintain and keep their clients happy and wanting to be part of your business and want to cheerlead for you. And for me, I think that success is far greater than any sort of financial gain. I don't know if that's quite the answers that everyone wanted, but you know, and also really staying true to yourself as well. And over the years, people have said, why do you call yourself brand commander? Why do you have Spitfires on your business card? Why do you have this whole war theme running through? And it's my passion. And I'm 15 years, that passion is still there, and I'm building a business with it. And I've become very known for it. And I think, you know, you've also got to own your passion as well.
I think
that's my success.
Lucy brings up a good point, which is that you have to be able to do what you say on the tin, right?
Yes,
it's the only way you do that. Customers come to you because of what you said. So if you do something else or you don't deliver, it's a big problem in terms of what they get back, your reputation, and it also changes perception, right? Do you know what you're talking about since you're not able to deliver what you said you can? So I think that's very important to be able to do what you, but don't be afraid to pivot. It's just if you pivot, be clear that you've pivoted. This is now what I'm doing.
Yeah, you've got to be able to deliver.
No, and I think in this day and age.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nadine, please.
No, I just wanted to chime in and add one thing. Dubai is a very cosmopolitan and a very vibrant city. It's also a city where there's a lot of competitiveness going on when it comes to businesses, and especially entrepreneurs. They're coming up with these great ideas. They're setting up these phenomenal small businesses. However, being out of sight is out of mind here in Dubai because things are so fast paced. And I know that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that because of the council. I feel that the members of the council who are able to maintain a certain level of profitability within their businesses are the ones who are, as the ladies mentioned earlier, they stay true to themselves. They have a very good level of customer centricity. So that is at the core of their business. Loyalty in their deliveries as well. So as in like their standards of delivery are not altered. And at the same time, we always need to keep in mind that Dubai is very service oriented, very delivery oriented. So we need to have that at the top of our list, and it needs to be one of our A games, if we may say that, especially for small businesses, or else you're easily swept down to the bottom of the pyramid and somebody else who's faster, swifter, more customer centric is going to take the place.
Yes, I mean, I think all of you have hit on some really amazing, very key points in this day and age. It's very, I mean, from a customer's perspective, it's very easy to scratch the surface and see, okay, maybe there's not all that substance that seemed to be there. So it is very important to be authentic, to be focused on your customer, and to, again, you can only be that way, I think, if you really believe in what you're doing, whether it's a product or a service. We're going to actually put this out to the audience here. So we're going to put out a poll, and you might see something pop up on the screen, but if not, we can then just sort of put the answers in the chat or in the Q&A section. But I'd like to put it out to the audience and find out of the few themes that the panelists have raised here. We've talked about the importance of customer centricity, passion, staying true, being authentic, and believing in your product, are the key sort of success factors for the entrepreneur of today. I'd like to know if, one or more maybe resonated with everyone that's on the call. And if you can pop that in, we'd like to kind of see what you guys think are the success factors. And if you've come up with or seen different ones, then please share that too. We'd like to make this as interactive as possible, so we all learn from each other. And the other thing I'd like to just remind is if you have any questions for the panelists, you can also put that in the Q&A and the chat section. Let's shift gears a little bit. So we've talked about key values that are needed to build a successful business, and it certainly has changed, I guess, over time. The question that I have here for Nadine and Lucy is, from your vantage point, how can entrepreneurs in Dubai become more skilled in these areas, or develop more experience in these areas? So really looking for maybe so actionable recommendations that you'd like to share.
Yes, happy to jump in on this one. I believe there are various factors or various things that will enable that. At this day and age, with the level of knowledge that's being passed on to us in incredible ways and online in terms of accessibility and all of that, we have access to keep developing and learning something new as often as we want. And there are very affordable ways to do that, whether it's taking small courses online or being affiliated to a certain group or council or business club that does these things and puts together or curates workshops and trainings. That's very helpful. Networking with people as well, because when you network and when you're in that space, you kind of like meet people, and sometimes you learn through meeting these people, and you never know where these relationships will end up taking you. Sometimes you might end up becoming partners for a business. Sometimes they can become your clients, and then again, all of these turn into learning curves for us. I believe in the power of mentorship. I mean, Lucy is also a mentor with one of the councils. Us at the Dubai Businesswomen Council, we've been extremely passionate about our own mentorship initiatives. And basically, you don't really need to do much. Just look within your network, find somebody that you feel you can learn from, and just approach them. If you are affiliated to a network or to a group or to a council, then I'm sure that they have all these programs that they launch around mentorship. So take part in them. I know for a fact that many of the people in my personal network are now moving towards taking courses on Coursera, for example. It's taking the world by storm, and you can choose your time, and you can manage how much time you want to put into learning all these courses online, and these just keep adding values, or sorry, they keep adding those skills, or if not, they just develop what you already have further and further. Yeah, so that's from my perspective.
No, great. Thank you so much.
I agree with that in terms of the networking, mentoring. Many years ago, I hired a business coach, and who's now based in the UK, who I've recently gone back to. And, you know, probably the best investment I ever made in my business was to hire this business coach. He could be a bit moody at times, but that's a typical male. But, you know, we worked together, and it was horrible. It was hard work, but it really changed. We developed the masterclasses together, and we're redeveloping new masterclasses now. And, you know, he has been my mentor, my guide. And sometimes, you know, I just WhatsApp him with a voice note going, I've got this problem, you know, and I really don't know how to solve it. And I always say to people in my sessions, wherever you can upskill, learn new skills, train your team, train you, the better the outcome, 100%. Because we don't know everything. I'm still learning after 15 years. I'm still learning how to, you know, do things. And, you know, it's all about continuously growing and learning as well.
Yeah, I mean, our world is changing, so obviously the learning has to be constant. And I want to emphasize something that each of you said is, you know, many people think mentorship is a very formal program. You have to apply for it. And what I loved is that you guys highlighted that really it could be anybody, you know, within your professional circle, your friends circle. And I found that to be true. So I've done the Dubai, you know, Businesswomen's Council mentorship, loved it, amazing. But it opened up a whole slew of other mentors in my life, and they're different mentors for different things. And so I'm glad that you guys raised that. So thank you for that.
Exactly. Sometimes when it comes to mentorship, you realize, actually, I'm seeing it a lot, especially in the last 2 cycles, that the applicants who are coming forward, they really need help with soft skills more than they do with technical skills, confidence skills, you know, presentation skills, negotiation skills. So there's a lot of the mental aspect that we kind of like underestimate that actually plays a very big role in shaping who you are as a businesswoman.
I think that's a good point too, because when you talk about upskilling, the number one thing we need to think about is take a moment of calm first and identify what the skills are that you want to learn and what the skills are that you're going to have someone else in your team learn and bring to the table. Because as entrepreneurs, we often fall into the trap that we think we need to know everything. And if we don't know it, then we don't know if the person in our organization has it all to provide. But, you know, for instance, in the Bedrock program, I've got superstar marketing people. I don't know that much about marketing as I should. So what we do is we sit around and share. And so we have weekly sessions where we just bring a nugget of information and we share. Or if there's been a question that's been asked a number of times, then that person will share with the group, and therefore we learn from each other. You know, I think that mentoring can come in so many different forms, and part of upskilling yourself is also upskilling the people that work for you and giving them opportunities to shine and to show you that they know something, because then they think, oh, I want to learn something new too, because I want to bring a new skill to the table. I want to, you know, contribute more to the organization.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Thank you. So we do have a few questions here, and I think, so a couple of them relate to, I think maybe I'll put this to Audrey and Lucy, just because you've had to set up your own businesses. So These this question is about visa and setting, like, you know, what kind of visa or license, and also location. So Audrey and Lucy, I don't know if you would be, you know, happy to maybe talk about, you know, the kinds, maybe the type of license you took and whether it was a Dubai license or, you know, a free zone license, or because we do have some people that are interested in knowing that.
Do you know what I would say on that subject when people are setting up businesses? I know Creative Zone might not like me saying this, but I'm just going to say it, is I would always say to people when they're starting a business is, if you can, where you can, piggyback on the back of someone else in terms of sharing costs, like sharing licensing costs, you know, sharing, you know, maybe office costs and things like that, because it is a big upfront payment. It is, and a lot of people don't have that. I literally had 10,000 dirhams and a really old car to get started with 15 years ago. 10,000 dirhams, rent paid for the next 3 months, and then that was it. And then, you know, once I'd run out, I'd run out. So it was either find clients or eat bread. But, you know, and I always say to people, and they go, oh, I'm thinking of getting a license, I'm thinking of doing this, I'm thinking of renting an office. And I just think, well, now, especially more so, people work from home. Do that for as long as possible. If you can trade through somebody else, and I appreciate that not everyone wants to do this, but I think while you're getting into your business and your clients are coming through, because often it takes a while for money to come through, find your feet first before you go spending all those upfront costs, because you know what it's like out here. Let's be real. It's all about big upfront costs, and most people don't have it. They go, hang on a minute, I just had a great idea for a business. Now I've got to shell out 50,000. Remember, may I remind you all where Apple started? In Steve
In a
Jobs'
garage.
basement, in a garage. Amazon started in a book. It was only a few select educational books, and it was in an office while he sold insurance. I mean, all of these things start, you know, in a bedroom, in a, you know, spare room and somebody else's, you know, shoebox. But I think there's always this, you know, this is the license, this is the visa, this is the rent. Well, hold on a minute, I'm really just starting. And I think it stifles creativity. I think it stifles your energy in actually doing something because you're too busy. And then you end up doing what I used to do, literally whoring yourself out there. Sorry, Monica. You know, you're running after every business, doing business with anybody, because you've just got to pay your visa costs. And it's a lot. And I think, you know, and I always say in my sessions, piggyback. If someone's doing something similar, see if you can go in with them until you find your feet. I don't know if that was helpful at all.
That's always helpful, Lucy. Audrey, would you like to share
Sure. So
about your licensing decision?
I take it a little bit differently, not necessarily differently, but I think the first thing you need to think about if you want to start a business is make sure you know your business inside and out, so you're picking the right activities. Because I've seen a lot of people around me say, oh, I do this, and they pick that activity, and then it stifles their ability to expand or to grow. So if you know where you want to be within the next 6 months to 2 years, because you don't know how fast or how slow your business is going to move, then be very careful about what those activities are. So, you know, when Lucy talks about piggybacking, then make sure you're having those conversations so you know what activities they have on their license and activities what you think you might need. You don't want to be in a sticky situation down the road. Yes, the costs are high, and but there's a few things you can do to mitigate them. So don't run out and automatically get a ton of visas on your license if you don't need them, right? You can hire people who are already on a spouse's visa or have another situation set up. And that can bide you over at least for the first year to keep the costs down so that you can identify and do a proper plan, at least of what your resourcing needs are. So it's just about being, you know, having a license is important because you're going to have things like you want to get paid, and therefore you need to have a bank account.
Yeah.
And you want to have a business bank account and not your personal bank account, because you also want to know how your business is running. You want to be able to track your costs. You want to be able to track your revenue. You know, if someone asks you a question and you want to know your business inside and out. So yes, but be smart, right? And think about these things. It's not just, I have an idea, I'm going to go spend 20,000 and have 16 visas and then you're stuck.
Just
So,
lower your overheads. Lower your
keep them
overheads
as
for
low
the
as
person.
possible. You know, you could do a hot desk sharing spaces.
Yeah.
You could look at a number of different opportunities. There
Yeah.
are free zones that are cheaper than others, but then also weigh the benefits and the cons to that for your business going forward. So if you establish yourself somewhere and then you can't have a physical office in Dubai, will this be a problem for you? Right? Will it be a problem for you to see clients, to entertain clients in your own space, to decorate it as you wish, to showcase your product or your service? All of these things should be in the back of your mind. But yes, you can definitely work with someone else who's doing something similar, but do keep those in mind, because to do it one way up front does not necessarily support your business in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, after
it's-
15 years, I still share an office. I mean, I have my own office and then I have the boardroom, but I still share an office with an aviation company that's mainly based in Saudi, a New Zealand guy. He's best friends with my ex-husband. It's all very amicable. And 15 years later, you know, I'm still sharing because we are splitting the costs because it's better for us. And I'm always amazed the number of people that just feel that that's the right thing to do, is have a big office. It's like adding that veneer of respectability to what they do, you know, and it's like that, it's that vanity thing where people want to look good rather than being good, you know. Well, we've got a big office, we must be successful because we've got a huge office, or we've got a huge tons of staff, and you know, we're in the latest, you know how it is out here where the best places to be, you know, whether it's Dubai Design District, you know, I think people are still kind of seduced by that, you know. But
I think it's changing. I think the world is
it
changing.
is changing. I mean, TCOM is rather nice. You're all invited to TCOM anytime. It's a very nice place.
You have a very nice office, Lucy.
I'll try my best.
One thing I wanted to add, actually, so you guys are right about, you know, looking at things smartly, sharing costs. So the Gaggler's been around for over 2.5 years, and midway I had to switch my licenses so I could share my experience. And I was pleasantly surprised, you know, that I was able to get, you know, a license that covered all the activities that my business does. And I didn't have to have the requirement of renting space. So, you know, I run virtually. I mean, I have a lease, like a zero amount lease that from the free zone. So that's also something I'd like to put out to the audience, is that when you are shopping around, ask for these things, you know, you might just get it, you know, even if it's not on the sticker, you know, of what you get with your license. There is a lot of negotiability, I found, you know, so definitely shop around. Okay, let's see if we had any other questions.
No, some people have said that it was a good point that I made.
A lot of people said that, Lucy.
It is a good point, Lucy.
Absolutely.
Great, actually. Sharpshooter.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one question here about finance, and I don't want to get too much into it because we're not talking about finance, but just curious again, you know, Lucy, Audrey, you know, have you ever had to get financing, whether it was a loan or, okay, could you talk us through that? Because the question is, what options are there available to raise finance for your business in Dubai?
So firstly, I will tell you how much I dislike banks out there. So apologies if anyone works in a bank, but banks out here, I find, to business owners, entrepreneurs, they're not your friend at all. So they won't lend you anything. I know it's really sad, but if I was employed, I would be able to borrow millions. But as a woman business owner, just a business owner, there's no options. So about 5 years ago, I wanted financing because I wanted to hire somebody and I wanted a couple of other bits and pieces, maybe a shopping trip. But I went to Beehive for funding, and they were brilliant. So it wasn't masses of that I wanted to borrow, but I went through a very, very stringent process, and they came and visited the office and all of these things, and bank statements, obviously. But they were the only option if you want to borrow money out here as a business owner. They were the only option available to me. So if I was to try and borrow money from, I think it was Rack Bank at the time, it was 27%. And I think at the time, I think Beehive was maybe 11 or 12%. So there aren't many options for financing. And I don't see, in the 15 years, I've been, you know, I don't really see much. I mean, how some of the banks out here, no names mentioning, but Emirates NBD, how they can win SME Bank of the Year is beyond me. They are not, still not geared towards business owners and small businesses. They, for some reason, that they are the last ones who don't recognize how they can help businesses. Sorry, that was more of a rant than a viewpoint.
No, but you know, Beehive might be an interesting option to look at to the person that posed that question, and anybody else.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
Beehive are great. Yeah, completely.
The other thing you can consider is there's been a really big uptake in recent years with crowdfunding, and there's some really good government and other organizations that have very accessible crowdfunding platforms. So I've met a number of entrepreneurs who have, you know, been looking to raise 20, 30, 40,000 dirhams and successfully got overfunded through crowdfunding platforms here, because there's a lot of people who want to get into supporting small businesses that don't know how to do it. So when a business crowdfunds and they like the idea, you just put up a little video about what you do and how you serve and how much you need. And it's actually quite an easy process. Me, myself, I've bootstrapped up until now. I'm actually going through a process of trying to raise pre-seed capital, which in itself has its own issues and takes a bit more time. But one of the areas that people have been directing myself and talking about their own experiences is the crowdfunding. So it is working. People are getting support through it.
Okay,
and
great.
also don't forget, setting up a bank account, a business bank account here, the average time takes 2 to 3 months. I mean, when I was 7 years old and I went to Barclays Bank, and yes, I do remember it, 7 years old, it was £1, so that's 7 dirhams. And you go into the bank, your mum signs the paperwork, you have a banking book within 15 minutes as a 7-year-old child. But as a business owner, 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
and anyway, I can tell you want me to move on.
Well, no, just because I don't want to take up all our remaining time, you know, with finance, but we'll certainly, you know, that's of interest. That could be a whole other webinar. So we're going to switch gears a little bit, because one of the things that I know personally, and I'm sure each of you have also know this, is the path of entrepreneurship is has a lot of ups and downs. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about mental health and entrepreneurs and your views on that. So, you know, according to a recent study that was commissioned by the accounting software company Xero, and was actually published in Forbes, 92% of business owners have experienced mental health problems over the past 2 years, and certainly COVID, you know, was a huge layer on that. So entrepreneur burnout is real, and so as business owners, and of course, I would also like to get Nadine's view on this, because she interacts with a lot of entrepreneurs in all the programs that she runs. But as a business owner, Audrey and Lucy, you know, can you share with us how do you create balance in your life whilst straddling work, family, you know, and other personal obligations? You know, how do you self-care for yourself so that you can be the best entrepreneur?
Yeah, I don't know why, but we love to talk about well-being. We love to talk about mental health. You switch on your phone, your Instagram, your Facebook, there's always something about well-being, and that's great. But why is it that when you run a business, or you're available, people have access to your phone number, your email, and so forth, and your WhatsApp, that they feel that they can just WhatsApp at any time of the day? And I experienced this recently, so now to the point where it is in our terms of business, it is, we are Monday to Friday. Please refrain from WhatsApping on a Saturday morning, because there is no emergency. It's not like I'm a hand surgeon. There is no emergency. Look, my hand's been cut off. Yeah, it's an emergency. But, it is kind of ridiculous, and we all like to do it, but then we impose it on other people. So with my own strategy now, I don't look at emails after 6. I've got an out of office on now for every weekend. And then if you WhatsApp me on a weekend, I'm just finishing off the final touches, I actually send a visual that says something along the lines of, we all talk about mental well-being, but this is mine. This is my weekend, and this can wait till Monday, and then you can contact me then. And I think it's about realigning people. Yeah. So just so, explaining, like you would in business, your terms and conditions, but then you have your play rules, and you have to realign people. I had this with somebody whose husband was WhatsApping me about an invoice. It's like, really? On a Saturday morning? So I've had to realign them on a call and say, so just so we're clear how we work as an agency, and this is how I manage it for my own personal well-being.
Yeah, great.
I think that's wonderful. And I think, Lucy sort of echoes, or I'll echo some of what Lucy said. I think it's about identifying your boundaries beforehand in order to know what it is that you want from people, in order to find that well-being. But it's about identifying those boundaries so that it's not just about them, it's also about you, right? So I have 2 small children, so I'd like to have dinner with my family, which means that if people want a meeting at those times of the evening, they're probably not going to get it, but they can get something a bit later, because my boundaries say that I will make adjustments for that, and I'm okay with that up until a certain hour. Or if someone contacts me on the weekend, I might say to them, I will get back to you on Monday.
Yeah.
So you're aware. And then once they do it a few times, they get the message. Yeah. But the other thing about it is, let's not forget the old adage that actually is true. You need to move. You need to exercise. You need to actually take the moment to eat, right? Which as entrepreneurs, we don't, because we're so focused on what has to happen, and then someone else calls it, and there's something else to do. Even if it's scheduling it in, like I literally have everything scheduled in, like you need a water break. Go and walk around for 20 minutes. Have you eaten lunch today? Like it literally pops up to remind me. And that's because it's exciting. It's so exciting to have your own business, and it's busy, and you feel that requirement to give everything, because this is what society has told us, right? If you want to be successful, you've got to be all in, and you've got to put it down. But if you burn out, your business suffers, your family suffers, your love life suffers, your friendships suffer, and in the end, you're burning out even more because you're wondering, where is it all? Where is the support?
And then the other thing is, you can't switch off at night. I mean, like at 10 o'clock at night, I would be usually WhatsApping my husband, because he lives in Europe. But then I'm like, if I've got a work call and I'm like, a message, I'm like, why are you messaging at that time? And it's just an intrusion into your life, and it's just wrong.
Yeah.
And I think you have to flag it with people, and you have to say, I'm really sorry, I'm not in the office right now, weirdly, at 10 o'clock at night. Sorry, what constitutes as an emergency? And for now, I call them out on it. I call people out and just say, no, this is not acceptable. This is not how we play at Plug.
You have to set your own boundaries, like you ladies rightly said. And if they send a message at 10 o'clock p.m. on a school night, if I may say,
School
then
night, yeah.
you have every right not to answer that message. Come the next day, come the
Then
morning.
but then
you know,
it plays on your mind. This is
it
what
does,
happens
but
to people.
that's
that's
where
you.
you have to. This is where
Yes.
you have to be
Yeah.
strong enough to stop yourself from
Yeah.
answering. Put the phone away. It's time for switching off. It means those electronic gadgets needs to be away. It's my time to exercise, meditate, spend time with family, whatever it is, read a book, take a bath, whatever. It's me time, because it's like a battery. You need to recharge that battery, or else you're just pushing yourself towards another burnout and towards another exhaustion. And entrepreneurs more than anyone, because you do everything, which is another misconception. Entrepreneurs should not be doing everything.
And is that, Nadine, something that you hear from, obviously your
time.
members and from your mentors? Is that what is kind of the main challenge, is that they just have all these hats and they just, are running
100%,
like
100%. And it really got accentuated during COVID. During COVID, to be honest with you, I've received so many emails, so many calls from members who are just, they're losing it. They first of all, they need to save the business. It's either some of them had just started the business and then COVID hit. Some of them are struggling because there's no more income, and they are the main breadwinners in the family, and so that led to probably them relocating back home. And it's COVID, and also there was a lot of women within our network who were really, really suffering. And to be honest with you, it was really tough trying to support them, because how else can you support as a council? I would connect people to others, try to probably help them see if they can partner together, because you ladies mentioned it earlier, piggybacking on someone else's or joining forces with someone. That actually was one of the biggest solutions that we managed to see within, especially very small or micro companies. Them partnering with another company really saved them. So yes, a burnout is real. It was before, but it was really highlighted during COVID. And I feel like COVID at some point taught us all the lesson of self-care. But for some reason, after the world opened up again, we kind of like let go of that self-care element, and we're going back to that cycle of somehow getting into that burnout again.
Not on my watch. Not at
Good.
One of the things that I think is important, and we've all sort of touched on it, but we've not linked it back to well-being, and that is community, right? What we're doing now, we're talking about issues, we're sharing, frustrations and solutions. And I think as an entrepreneur, having those communities, DBWC, I'm a member, Elevate, I'm a co-president, Reach, I'm a mentor, right? The Link, I'm a mentor. Having a place where you can not have to struggle or be on your own, and you can turn to another woman or man and say, dude, I don't know what to do. And that person to look at you and say, oh, well, I had that issue and here's how I solved it. And then I don't have to suffer alone. Someone else is dealing with it in a different way, or can offer, or even just listen. Right? Sometimes your spouse, they're busy in their own world. They don't have the time or the energy or the ability to support you. And having community is so important for that well-being. There is so much to be said that you can't turn off, you're right, when you go to bed. But if you're sitting down, having a tea or a coffee with someone just for an hour, all of a sudden you walk away and you feel refreshed and revived, and you can take that next phone call and you feel energized to move forward with your day. So
yeah, exactly. I just adding to what Audrey just mentioned. Now, sometimes all it takes is that we ask. You knock on that door and you will be surprised what kind of feedback you'll get. There's so many people out there who are willing to support, willing to help, willing to mentor, give advice, and we only find out if we ask, because we live in such a cosmopolitan and busy city that sometimes people don't feel comfortable asking, because they assume that the person they want to ask is probably gonna reject or have some issue with that. But you'll be surprised, and especially as women, our problem is we don't collaborate together enough. We don't. We know of each other, but how many of us have reached out and said, hey, you're doing this, I'm doing that. Why don't we work together? Why don't we do this together? You know what I mean? It's a very common thing amongst women that we do not come together as often as we can.
We use the words. Yeah, I always say that in my sessions. I'm like, collaboration, cross-promote, cross-pollinate, whatever words you want to use, but do it, because I think people always get nervous about it because they feel they're going to lose something. But I'm always banging on to all of my clients, find people out there, collaborate. There will be a way that you can do it to make it work.
And don't be afraid to ask. Don't assume that if you ask, you're going to get rejected. You will be surprised with the outcome. And yes, thank you, Lucy. Cross-promote, collaborate. Oh my God, yes, it is like the essence of what we do here. The whole point of the council is to cross-promote the businesses and the services that the ladies who are with us as members, and just show everybody else what they're all about, you know, collaborate with organizations who share the same vision, the same mission. The impact is more powerful than anybody would think.
Can I join?
Of course, you'll be
join.
All of you will be honorary members if you're not already.
I'm already a member, so you've got me.
Excellent. Right, I'll be in touch for that. That's my action for collaboration.
There you go, Lucy, another council for you.
Another council.
So we have some more questions, and I think some of these are inspired from the sharing of office space and whatnot. So the question here is, how do you manage secondary activities like, for example, accounting, taxation, HR, marketing? I mean, would these types of activities be ones that you'd share? Would you share a bookkeeper, or I don't know if you guys have ever done this or seen this being done, but please share.
I use consultants, right? I mean, in BBG, in DBWC, in talking to other people, people share consultants, right? If you know someone who is an accountant and okay, come and do my books. Why should you have, and this is what I meant when I was talking about upskilling. You don't have to do all of the functions and burn yourself out trying to focus on that instead of selling and promoting and working on your core business. Find people who can do it for you, but trust them, right? Like take the time to vet them and understand them and feel that you can give that part of your business to them. Try them out, you know, do whatever makes you comfortable, but don't do it all yourself. That's where the burnout comes from.
But there are some things, I mean, you know, obviously I'm a marketeer, there isn't a software for that, but you know, for accounts, when you're getting on your feet, apologies to any accountants, but to getting started with, when you only might be issuing 5 or 6 invoices a month, you can use QuickBooks or you can use Xero. You know, there's all these things that you can choose. And then once you get a bit bigger and it's like, okay, now I've got to do the dreaded VAT, then you can bring somebody in. Again, it's not necessarily piggybacking, but it's using those skills. People who can't afford me would start, we're not that expensive, by the way, but they would start with Canva. So people could start with Canva and they could start making things themselves. Obviously, I will criticize it. But then in time, they can then, you know, hire someone who can do their PR, their marketing or their design or whatever, you know, so there are plenty of resources, you know, and again, it's back to the whole trade license thing. You know, you don't need to suddenly go, right, we've got a single invoice, we need to hire an accountant, you know, a CFO, you know, it doesn't work like that.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just conscious of time and we do still have a few questions. In fact, Nadine, there's some here for you. One question was about the mentorship cycle. So maybe you can give us a little bit of a brief on how that works. And then we had another question about whether the council was only open to women. Is there a men's council? I don't know.
Asking that.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Probably a man.
Okay, so the mentorship
I'd like
cycle,
to join.
The mentorship cycle is, it happens every 6 to 8 months. All right, so every cycle is once it's terminated or finished or etc., we set up a new cycle. And there's one actually that's starting early in October. And I believe that the last day for submissions for any mentees at the moment, it closes down on September 20th. So more information is found on the website, or just get in touch with us on info@dbwc.ae. We will furnish you with all the information. The mentorship cycle, or the mentorship initiative that I launched a few years ago, is basically not reinventing the wheel. All I did was I connected with the partners of the council, and I told them, okay, you are so successful and you have a reputation for being a pioneer in your industry. Would you like to give a couple of hours a month to mentor somebody in need? And this is how it was born. We gathered a couple of people together, very powerful mentors. We opened it up to our members. We created a very straightforward application form, and that's how it was launched. As for the business council being for men, unfortunately, unfortunately, it's for women, as in terms of memberships.
Fortunately.
However, all our events, activities, initiatives involve the men, because one of our main pillars is diversity and inclusion. So in order to be inclusive, you have to engage the other 50% of the population. So we believe in coexisting together, men and women. And so, and to be very honest, we have great support from our men partners and our men mentors. Even the facilitators, who are super rock stars, happen to be men. So yes, I believe this answered the questions, I hope.
I think so. If it didn't, then we'll see. We'll see if there's a follow-up question, but that was well said. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we have a few minutes left, and I'd like to just now maybe start kind of concluding, and like to ask each of you to highlight just very briefly, what's next for you as an entrepreneur, for your business, and then of course, for the Dubai Women's Council. So Audrey, do you want to maybe start and tell us what's next for you?
Sure. So our practice is growing wonderfully. We've expanded again into the after-school activity space. So we've now been partnering with a few of the private schools here in Dubai to offer the Bedrock program, career coaching after-school activity, to empower the youth to identify their values and look at possible careers to prepare for. And we've also launched the confidence building after school activity. So we're also working with young people who are not as confident as they would like to be, and teaching them the skills and network to do so. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a fundraising round as we're in the middle of building a beautiful technology 3D gaming platform that focuses on EdTech and coaching, to give youth another way in which they can engage and learn about themselves and what they want to do in the future. So very exciting things to be had. So get in touch if anyone wants to know more, or to discuss how we can support your child or anyone in your family.
Amazing. And I think we do have the contact information was shared, so people will be able to do that. Perfect. Nadine, how about you? You mentioned that the next mentoring cycle is coming up. Are there any other initiatives you can share with us that are happening that would be, attractive for entrepreneurs out there looking for support and help?
Definitely. We are working with a large multinational organization on putting together another accelerator program. So we're just fine-tuning the details. That will be launched hopefully very soon. During the pandemic, we launched the DBWC Forums initiative, and it's basically a very interesting initiative that gathers men and women from different industries to talk about what the challenges are for women in these particular industries, as well as what have been the opportunities for them. So the first one for after the summer holiday is going to be next week. The DBWC Forums is bringing MBC Group on board, and we are hosting them for a half-a-day forum, and we're going to talk about women in media. This forum is open for men and women, and all you need to do is just go on the website, dbwc.ae, try to find it under events and register. Registration is mandatory because seats are very limited and we're getting lots of registrations in. After that, we have a wellness forum that's happening in October. There will be a women in healthcare forum coming up in the next couple of months. And in between those, we have some great workshops on, incorporating the metaverse into your business and, all these different and inspiring workshops and topics that are definitely guaranteed to add value. So the point of all of this is I want to keep the topics interesting. I want to keep my members and the guests engaged. And what I aim to do in the following year, I hope so, is to probably bring women to collaborate more together. I really, really would love to see that happen. More partnerships, more collaborations, more cross-promotion, coming together for, look, we're not in competition here. At least we at the Dubai Businesswomen Council, we're not. So we work with everyone. We work with Elevate, and we work with the 30% Club, and we work with the CEO Club. We work with everyone because the problem, the issue is everybody thinks that we as a council want to raise money. We don't. We're nonprofit. We're here to support. So anybody who feels that could be of added value to this council and to the businesswomen community, just come forward and let us know, and we'll see how we can work together.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Nadine. Lucy, what is up for you next? A plug?
Probably to go and meet Nadine. Just your energy. I love it. But I'm actually launching my personal brand website that's been so late because I've been so busy with client work. But yeah, sort of really pushing my personal brand more out there through my masterclasses, through my speaking engagements, and really pushing that. And Plug is a great, well-oiled machine, so I just need to keep those wheels turning, but really focusing on all my personal branding stuff now, because I think that speaks to people a lot more than Plug does. Sometimes I feel that people are more interested in that. So that's it really, and more masterclasses, more collaborations, and that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. Excellent. So thank you to all of the panelists for all of the valuable insights you've shared with us this afternoon. Just some information for the audience and for those that registered and may not have been able to stay for the whole session. This webinar has been recorded and will be available on Creative Zone's YouTube channel, so that you can then replay it and take in the information that's been shared here. I think that's about it. I do believe there's also going to be an email that's going to be sent to all the registered attendees with the YouTube link, so that will be in your inbox hopefully tomorrow. And thank you to all of the attendees. We wouldn't be able to do this without without you. So thank you for being here, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for
Thank you,
tuning in.
ladies. And thank you, Monica and Creative Zone, for the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.